Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where I've been doing a little bit of iteration here on this design, and I've added in these lights here. Unfortunately, they're not very bright, so I think we want to increase the intensity of them up to 150%. I also suspect that we want to have them be a little bit bigger at maybe like 100% size, and I want to move them in a little bit, kind of like that. So that will be absolutely fine. The other thing that I noticed on our last attempt is that these engines, while they have a thrust to weight of like 2 over Brigo, they don't have a lot of acceleration. So I would like to increase their size a little bit here. It's going to increase their cost, absolutely. And let's move them up to like 100% size. Now this is going to be clipping into here. And we can make a couple of changes to that by dragging these down to here. Something like that. So that'll give us a little bit more space there. And then we're clipping in over here into the tank. So I'm wondering if we were to... we could duplicate this, I suppose, and just get ourselves a little bit more distance like that. I wonder if we're going to hit heat issues with these as we ascend through the atmosphere. That is a distinct possibility with them here, I think. We'll see how it goes. Now, we could also consider adding in some control surfaces down here, and I would like to do so. So let's do that about here or so. And let's just shrink these down a little bit and then get it to be something kind of like that or so. And I'd like to add a control surface, of course, as well. That'll be fine. And single axis, no. But the rest of that should be okay. Now, this is going to be in a bad position, of course. We're going to need it to be like at 270 or so. And then we would want to have this be radial X4. Something like that. That'll give us some control as we go up. So now the main concern is heat damage on these engines as we ascend. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's get on out of here. Fantastic. We're going to put this over at about 70 degrees for right now. Those control surfaces mean that we're able to head broadly over to that point. And we're going to be losing our side boosters very shortly, which is fine. Okay, they are out of here. And our main booster is going to be gone shortly as well. I want to bring this over to 0. And there we go. So we're currently about high enough up to ditch our fairing. I wonder if we'll have an attachment issue here as well, because the fairing could come out and impact this. We'll see if that happens. No, that looked clean. Okay, let's go ahead and toggle our solar panels. Wonderful. And then we could turn on our lights and see how they look. This is much brighter than how they looked with the last iteration. So that is very, very good. We're going to need the lights because we need to land at the pole. So that's fine. Let's go up to 2x warp here. And we're just going to bring this up to, what are we at right now? 156. I think we'll bring it up to 200 kilometers, and that should be relatively fine. So just park it at about 200. We need to build up a lot of lateral speed still, so that seems absolutely fine. And then, of course, we're just going to head out to Brigo. I don't think we're going to bother with an inclination change here because there's not really a point. We know that we're going to have to be in a polar orbit of Brigo anyway, so we might as well change it once we get to Brigo. So that should be absolutely fine. We're at 170 with the apoapsis right now, and we should be starting to see that apoapsis climb a decent amount here. 175. 180. Yeah, that's definitely accelerating. 185. 190. 195. And 198 right now. Let's push it up a little more. This just doesn't instantly cut the throttle, so that seems fine. Let's plan a burn at the apoapsis. We're going to do a coast period here, and we're just going to head on up to 200. This is close enough. Okay, let's go. 325 meters per second. So we'll have about 300 meters per second left in this stage to start propelling us out to Brigo. That seems magnificent. Okay, so our periapsis is roughly circularized now, and let's just position ourselves for this Brigo transfer. So we're going to set Brigo as our target. Brigo is currently there, so probably the burn will happen sometime around here or so. That's a little bit too early, I think. Or actually a little too late. So it'll be sometime around here or so. Just got to dial in that timing. Yeah, you can see we're definitely having some inclination issues here. And I don't really want to toss in any inclination change there. So we may want to actually do an inclination change. Okay, that's fine. An inclination change does appear to be necessary. Although we don't necessarily need the largest inclination change in the world. We don't necessarily have to perfectly hit this. So let's do this out over here. Let's just eyeball this. So that would be right about here. Okay, I'm just going to eyeball it to about there. Cool. So that's 481 meters per second. That is more than what we have here, unfortunately. I was hoping that our inclination change would be unnecessary, but sadly, it is a bit necessary. Okay. There we go. So this last little bit of inclination change is going to have to happen on this engine. That is fine. How are we doing on battery? We're at 99 on the battery right now. Okay. I'm going to turn off these lights for the time being. We do not need them. We will need them eventually. But not yet. Okay, we're about 30 seconds away from finishing this burn. And did we suffer any damage on these engines? Ooh, hang on. No. Don't fire that engine. I meant to left click it, not right click it. Okay. So, did we suffer any damage on that? No. Okay. We did burn a tiny amount of fuel there, but it should not be a problem. We've got about 9 seconds left on this burn. Looks good. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay. That should be relatively fine. So let's see what a Brigo transfer might look like now. We'll do a planned burn here. And we'll just push that on out. Yeah, this timing isn't perfect. It's going to have to be about here. That's actually a really nice transfer. Do it. Okay. So that looks good. We're just going to get ourselves into this position. And that's going to be a 5-minute burn there. We'll definitely warp through that. But 2x is the fastest we can warp in this game. So that seems relatively okay. Our battery is still at 99%. We should be absolutely fine on that in theory. That should recharge itself. We don't have an alternator on this engine, but what we do have, of course, is these solar panels. So that should be reasonably fine. The light does not have to be on until we get a lot closer to Brigo, so that looks okay. But I did notice on the last attempt when we had the spin that we were not slowing down very quickly, not as quickly as I expected with 2 thrust to weight, so that was why I increased the size of these engines, because I don't think that they were big enough. I mean, they would have been big enough, but we would need to burn for a very long time, and I wanted more power there. So that sounds absolutely fine for now. We're at 40% done with this burn, 2.7 minutes left on it. And of course, about 680 meters per second. We'll see how accurately we get this burn. We have low thrust to weight for this altitude of orbit, so we're going to be a little inaccurate and inefficient with it. But that should be reasonably fine for now. It should be semi-accurate. We may have to do a corrective burn. We'll see. It's still claiming high accuracy for now. I don't know if that's true. I do not know if that is true. We've got about 400 meters per second to go here. And this is all looking good. Now about 300 meters per second. Phenomenal. And about 50 seconds left on this burn overall. So I do wish that we could warp at 4x for these burns when we're in vacuum. Unfortunately, that's not allowed in this game. There's probably technical engine or math reasons why that's not allowed, but it would be nice, for sure, even at a lower accuracy rate. So let's go down to normal speed here. It looks like this is going to be a fairly accurate burn, but not perfectly by any means. We're definitely going to want some radial there, probably. Actually, this is fine. We don't need to do a corrective burn on this. That looks absolutely okay. Let's warp on over. Cool. So we're going to hop into the Sphere of Influence and plan a burn at the periapsis, and we're just going to do a minimal braking burn to get ourselves into orbit here. This is going to be probably a 400 meter per second burn, something like that, is my guess. Actually, more like 350. 340? Sure, do it. So that'll be a 60-second burn to get us into orbit of Brigo. You can see at this point we are at 100% battery, and that looks great. So that is absolutely phenomenal. We're going to have to change our inclination here, and that's fine. I don't mind that. So we're going to target Mimas Crater here. Or actually, that is not Mimas Crater. This is target location that we want to target. Okay, and that is very polar there. So that's fine. We just want to get ourselves into a 90-degree inclination. And we can see right now it's 21.83. So that's going to require a little bit of work, for sure. So we're continuing this braking burn for now. We've got ourselves about 90 meters per second to go. And this all looks good for the moment. Okay. So there we go. We are in a minimal orbit here. So now what I want to do is I want to go to, looks like the descending node, out over this way. And I want to put us out into a 90-degree inclination. So that means that we're going to need to increase this inclination by a lot, and we're going to have to toss in retrograde as well. That is absolutely understood. This is going to be roughly a 50-50 burn between retrograde and radial. In fact, probably more retrograde than normal. I meant normal, not radial. Okay, this is very, very close here. Let's turn down that sensitivity a bit and put it about like that. So that's 77 kilometers. That's not too bad. I'd like to dial that in a little closer, down to about 20. So that's 30 kilometers, and then this is right about 20. But you can see our inclination is not perfect. So we're going to have to dial that in a little bit, and that means a little bit less on the normal here, and a little bit more on the retrograde. And it's just a matter of finding where that proper balance is. And this is very, very close here. I'm going to call this right here good enough. That's a 90-degree inclination, 21 kilometers on that periapsis. Go ahead and do this. 153 meters per second looks good. So that's going to put us into a polar orbit here with a 21-kilometer periapsis. We're going to be flying right over the designated location, but of course we're going to need to do a braking burn at the periapsis and circularize this. We're going to have a lot of orbital speed once we get to this periapsis, and we're going to want to get rid of that before we start our landing burn, for sure. Okay, that was a good burn there, and we're going to plan a burn at the periapsis and just bring this guy right on down to circularize. That's getting a lot closer there, but we want to bring this to about 20 kilometers. This'll do. So that looks good. 198 meters per second getting shaved off again. Excellent. Let's go ahead and burn that. Cool. So this puts us into a polar orbit at 21 kilometers, or about 20 kilometers, really, over Brigo. And you can see here, we're about 300 kilometers from our target location right now and getting further away. This isn't shocking. We're on the other side of the orbit. So we'll be approaching from, you know, this direction. It's going to be coming like this. So it's going to be, yeah, We're going to have to turn this around eventually, but this is fine. We're going to be okay here. So we're finishing up that burn. Let's check on the final details of the burn. It looks good. So at this point, we are heading this direction, right? So we would want to warp to somewhere around here. Now, what's our orbital velocity? 555 meters per second. Our overall lateral velocity is basically the same. So I want to burn somewhere around here. And I want to get rid of the majority of that lateral velocity, but I want to still be slightly overshooting this. So I want to put us something like there. Okay, so let's lock to that burn and let's auto-execute that. Looks like we're going to have to do a bit of an inclination change, I think. But let's get this burn over with first. So we're currently about 60 kilometers away from this. Looks good. We're going to do the majority of our braking on this engine. I'd like to get rid of pretty much all of our speed and have very, very little for the other engines to deal with because we don't know exactly how much we're going to be able to affect this, right? So that seems fine. I'm going to come about here and we're going to burn slightly this direction. And we're also going to burn in this way a bit, bringing us in something like that. Still slightly overshooting it. And we'll do another correction once we're a little closer in. So for now, let's go ahead and execute that. We can see we're about 30 kilometers away. I do want to turn on these lights while we can see here. There we go. Okay, so we can see that our overall speed here is about 270 meters per second. I want to lock us to retrograde right now. Okay, I'm just looking at our ground level altitude here. About here, I want to plan a burn, and this is going to be a retrograde burn, getting rid of, again, a large amount of this speed. So our current surface speed is relatively high, but we're just going to do something kind of like that. Okay, go ahead and lock to that planned burn. I kind of want to manually execute this burn, though. Well, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. So we're going to let this auto burn for now. After this, we're probably going to start doing some manual execution. Okay, so I think that we are going to need to head this way a little bit, is my current guess. Let's open up the nav ball here. Okay, I'm just looking to push these nodes a little bit together here. Yeah, something about like, let's push it a little further. Little further. That's fairly close. Now I'm going to come down over here. And we're going to push it this way a bit. Just getting rid of some of this relative speed, but also adjusting our overall directionality. Okay, so for now, this is relatively fine. It's definitely drifting due to the gravity, but that is absolutely understood. I'm going to be burning up to get rid of some of this vertical speed. There we go. Now I'm going to lock us back to retrograde. And let's get rid of a lot of this speed. Ooh, hang on. That is very sensitive. Okay, I'm going to ditch this now. We're going to move over to prograde. Okay. So I'm just going to be decelerating us. I'm looking at how much we're actually moving this. And it is a fair amount that we're moving this right now. Okay. So we have a decent amount of power in these engines right now. That's good to know. And yeah, you can definitely see that we're heading down approximately in that target location. But our overall velocity is actually down here. So I want to burn not this way, but actually this way. Just a bit. I want to get us some speed here. And then I want to move this over to prograde. Okay. So that has built us up some speed in that direction. But we're going to need to absolutely get rid of some of that speed. Because I want to head out over here a bit. Back to prograde, please. This thing likes to move around a lot. Okay. Let's see how this is going. This is actually a good direction to be heading. Okay, we're about 2 kilometers away right now. I want to start a gentle deceleration. We're currently trying to push this into no longer having lateral velocity. Okay. I'm just wondering if we maybe need a little bit more lateral velocity than what we have here. Let's lock this back to prograde, though. We're coming down, like, right on the edge of this thing. Yeah, let's get rid of this vertical velocity and start heading up over this way a little bit. Okay, back over to prograde we go. Cool. So let's get rid of that lateral velocity. Looks quasi-okay right now. We're about 1 kilometer away. We just need to land in the designated location here. And we need to land quite gently, right? How much fuel do we have here? Well, 62%, so that is absolutely plenty. Let's start a slight deceleration here. We know we're going to have a hard time holding the actual attitude. But let's just very gently bring this down. This is a little too much. What is our acceleration looking like? Okay. So we're currently just holding at about 7 meters per second here, and that seems reasonably fine. Now we're at 8, we're accelerating. So let's bring that down ever so gently. The range on these lights is 250, so we should start getting a view of the ground once we get to 250 meters above ground level, in theory. We're at 60 meters per second, or 60. We're at 6 meters per second. If we were at 60, we'd be in trouble right now, for sure. Now we're down to 5 meters per second. Okay, so we're within the designated location. That just went away. I'm throttling down to gain us a little bit more speed here. We're still 320 meters up. So for now, this looks good. We're accelerating a bit at 6 meters per second. I want to let this drop down to 250 meters. There we go. We should now start to see light down here start to attenuate in. Although I'm not currently seeing any light down there, it probably is going to need to get a fair amount closer. It's technically affected right now, but before we... Whoa, what just happened? Oh, did we hit the ground? No? I don't think so. I don't think we hit the ground. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, this is the ground here. Okay, so let's just gently touch down. There we go. And now we need to release the rover. Cool. So that seems fine. We can put on the brakes, I guess, but we can just release the rover right now. Excellent. And now we need to drive the rover to the 3 locations. Okay. So we're going to swap over to the rover here. And it is very dark. So sample 0 is out here. This rover doesn't have any lights on it. Oh, wait, it does. It does have lights on it. Okay. That's good to know. I'm wondering about its status on the battery, though. because we're basically never, ever going to get sunlight here. So that's noted. It is, however, time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to grab these samples and bring this on back. This should be no problem from here. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.